Welcome to the Women and Money Empowerment Show. My name is Yulin Lee, and I am your host. In these episodes, you will hear my heart-to-heart conversations with women from all walks of life, sharing their wisdom and their journey to success. I hope through these stories, you will find inspirations and affirmation that ordinary people like you and me, we can achieve extraordinary results and live an extraordinary life. Now, let's dive into today's show. Hello, Anne. Thank you so much for joining me today. You know, I was so happy when you said yes to coming onto this show. And the reason is because I really feel like you are someone who have led an incredible life, starting as a young traveler in your 20s, coming to America, but then ended up settling down here, but then more importantly, and have since built multiple businesses for yourself and for your family. And so when I think about, the theme of this show, which is ordinary people can achieve extraordinary results and live an extraordinary life. I mean, you totally exemplify that. And so that's why I am so happy that you're here with me. And so I really want our audience to really kind of learn about who you are and your journey, and with the intention that, our conversation will become an inspiration source for others to also step up and really step into their own power. So I would love for you to just start by saying, so who is Anne Carr in your own words?
Who is Anne Carr?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me on here. I'm very honored to be on here with you, Yulin. So I grew up in the Outback and a little bit of a tomboy at heart. And I went to college in Adelaide in South Australia. And then after I graduated, I traveled around the world by myself. And my initial plan was to go for a year, and it ended up being about 3.5 years. And I ended up in Palo Alto, and I met my husband at the second year mark when I was waitressing in a diner. And I kept traveling, and then I went back to Australia, and then he flew over, and then I decided that, this was my soulmate, and I wanted to come back and live over here. So we have built, and we are still building, an amazing life and giving back to the community, and just following our passions and our dreams.
So tell us, like, what you at least own two businesses. So
Mhm.
tell us what they are and what does that journey look like?
I own, with my husband, Stanford Chiropractic Center, and we've had that over 30 years. And I run the front desk, and I also run all the behind the scenes as well. And I do have an online international beauty business that is all online, and I have a huge international team. So I managed to juggle both of those and find a good balance in there and use both businesses to inspire people.
What you're living is a lot of people's dream, right? In that you have a very balanced life with family, and then two businesses that are very successful. But what's that key ingredient, that key, somebody like to call it secret, for maintaining that balance, for creating that life where you are enjoying it yourself, but also doing so much good for others around you as well? So what
Right.
is that secret? What is that ingredient?
For us, we have a family motto of family first. And we do a lot of goal setting together, where we want to be, where we've come from, where we're going, what our goals and our dreams and our hopes and our wishes are. And we always have the motto of family first. If it's good for the family, we do it. And so we set a lot of goals together, and then we set individual goals, and then we share them with our kids so we all know everyone's wishes and dreams as well. So we can all support each other in that way. So we kind of move together as a unit. We're all individual, but we love helping each other. So when you're kind of mission based and purpose based and know what you're aiming for, it's not easy, but the priority of family first makes everything else work.
I love that you said that, because I think for a lot of people, and when we think about someone who is successful, we usually think of it like in terms of business, in terms of money or whatever. It's actually not often to hear people say family first. It starts with family. And I so agree with that, because I think a strong family is the foundation for everything else. Otherwise, you could be very successful in business for a little bit, but then, if your family life isn't taken care of, then eventually everything crumbles. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. I think that that's probably a good good key and advice for a lot of people who, who are wanting that kind of lifestyle with, having a good balance between, when we say balance, but actually in order to have that balance in life, you actually have to put priorities to family first and family values, right?
Yeah, that's what we do. And we've always said, running two businesses, there's a lot of highs and lows. And especially when we were beginning, we didn't always have the finances to do things. And we always looked at each other and said, if we didn't have anything else, we'd be okay because we would be able to rebuild. Because as long as we have that strong foundation of our family, then that's most important. And we always said we'll be great no matter what happens. And we do have, so just touching on that, we as a family we also have like the 8 different categories that we do with our goal setting. And I could just go over them really quick, but we do.
Yeah.
So family, we always do first. And then the other 7 categories are career, finance, health, personal development, social, your spiritual or your self-care, and then your vacations. So if you can kind of, what we do is our family's always first, but if we touch on all of those, if you think of a circle or a little wheel rolling along, if they're somewhat balanced, you kind of can roll along a little bit smoothly. But if you're missing any of those parts or missing it in a big area, it's not going to roll along smoothly. It's just going to be really bumpy. So the more you can kind of get like a well-rounded touch on all those areas, then the smoother, in my humble opinion, the smoother, everything goes.
Yeah, and I think that's a really, really important point because I think in so many instances, we tend to think like, oh, I need to work on X. Let me do this first, and then I'll take care of the other things, right? Kind of same thing that I hear from, the clients that I work with or the women that I meet, and, regarding their finances. Oftentimes I hear people say, yeah, I really want to take care of my finances. I really want to work on my finances, but I'm really busy right now with this other thing, and I'll come back to it. And then this idea of coming back to it later, which is actually part of the problem of becoming imbalanced and having that, all these peaks and valleys and the yo-yo effects in our life. Like you said, so important to always pay attention to all of these areas. And maybe there may be some variations, different levels, but we never really want to give up in any one area.
Right.
Because when it's out of balance, when it's out of whack, that's everything else that you do.
Definitely, I agree. So on every Sunday, my husband and I will kind of go, how is your week looking? And we'll actually look at our week ahead and see if we're kind of touching on everything close enough to those, 8 categories. And then at the end of the month, we'll kind of do the same thing and do just like a quick touch in. So there are going to be times when everything is off balance, but if you can over a week or over a month, if you can kind of get a gauge on, okay, maybe we just need to increase in this little area or focus a little bit more on here just to kind of touch on all that and make it a little bit more smoother. So we'll do a lot of check-ins like that too.
Yeah, that's great. And so I think what I'm hearing is it's a very strong team, working together between you and your husband, right? And I think that's probably a really good ingredient and important ingredients and the secret to having a well-rounded, balanced life is that you're always working and hopefully for most part in sync, but even when you're not in sync, you're doing enough to communicate that and so that you can course correct along the way. Being a money coach, oftentimes I hear people talking about how they're doing something and then their spouse is doing something different, not realizing they're actually doing something in opposite directions in terms of what they want to achieve in the long term. So I think that's another really key important component, well-balanced and happy family life. In your definition, like how do you define success?
Success can be in so many different areas, and I see that every day with the people that I deal with. Success for somebody is having a solid family. Success for others is having $1 million in the bank. So I think you have to evaluate what success means for you. And success for me means that able to inspire or able to influence or able to help people. We have ourselves in a situation where all of those, are mostly balanced and you kind of feel that happy inside. I don't really wake up like super stressed or anything like that. And you may not hit all the goals that you want, but you have some fun ones that you're aiming for and you're on track for that. So you have a purpose, you have a mission. And I feel like if you wake up in the morning and you're happy, because it's different for everyone. That's kind of a tough question. I feel like for me, for success is when I can give back to others and happily do it in a position to be able to do that. I
Mm-hmm.
feel that for me, that's my definition of success for us
Right.
and our family.
Yeah, yeah, great. And so, since this is a women and money empowerment show, I'm curious, how does money show up for you, and personally, or in your business, or in your married life? Like, how does money show up in your life? Just curious.
Right. So that's an interesting question because me coming from an Australian background, it's actually it's dealt differently in Australia than it
Mm-hmm.
is in the States. So in Australia, it's more of a humble, something that you don't really talk about. Well, I grew up, it wasn't really something that you did, that you talked about. It was almost like it was bragging if you had it. So for
Mm-hmm.
me, I always felt like it was something that was, I don't know if it's not necessarily a great thing, but it had a little bit of stress for me. And so, coming over here, it was a totally different concept. So I had to reprogram myself that money is a very good thing. And I heard a quote once where somebody was saying we need more good people to have money so that you can use it for good. And so I was able to use that for me to kind of reprogram myself that
Mm-hmm.
the more we have, the more that we can help as well. And so I feel like the more that we give, the more we just get blessed with in return.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I also have a mission and a purpose for things. So whenever I do something, I do the tithing, I donate back into the community, I donate back into the organizations that I love. And I feel like the more that I do that, the more the universe gives back.
So that's very interesting because, from an Australian perspective, in America, we talk about money a lot more. And in Australia, that's very interesting.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah.
And they may have changed because it was a long time ago, when I left. So that was a good almost 40 years ago, 35 years
Right,
ago.
right. Or maybe before we dive into that, I'll have you maybe talk a little bit about chiropractor practice
Mhm.
that you and your husband own, just so people have a better idea, like how, people know what is a chiropractor, what does a chiropractor do, but maybe you can tell us how you are different, maybe how your business is different from everyone else that's out there.
Right.
And the same thing with your online beauty business. Maybe tell us, maybe a little bit more detail like what they are. And then from those two businesses, like what lessons have you learned from those experiences?
Right. So chiropractic, a lot of people have a misunderstanding about chiropractic. So just a brief overview, all your information comes from the brain and down your spinal cord and goes out to every cell, muscle, gland, tissue, organ, vital organ. And sometimes when you're in maybe an accident or you have stress, the bones can move out of alignment and put pressure on the nerve. So think of stepping on a garden hose. So it will impact functioning of the water coming through. And when you lift your foot off, then the water starts functioning again. So think of that as like a nerve. So there gets a little bit of pressure on there and it doesn't function 100%. So a chiropractor's job is to release the pressure on the nerves and position your spine back into its normal alignment and then allow your body to function 100%.
Mhm.
So my husband he's just an amazing chiropractor. I'm not very biased. He is.
Mhm.
And we have patients all the way from newborn babies all the way to professional athletes to the elderly. We're very family run. Our office manager's been with us almost 25 years. It's a very positive environment. We love keeping people healthy. And it's all different. There's preventative, there's accidents, there's falls, everything's different. But I think the fact that we're family run and we've been there around for such a long time just kind of speaks volume in itself.
Mhm.
It's just really positive environment. And then my online international beauty business, I love because it's all online. I love the products. We're a mission-based company, which is right up my alleyway. I didn't know this at the time, but when I first started, when I signed on with them, they were mission-based. And a lot of the funding goes towards an organization called Supriya, which helps and begins the healing process for women that were sexually abused when they were younger. And
Mhm.
I'm a martial artist. So once I found that out, I created some self-defense classes that I teach that I call them the ACE classes. So awareness, confidence, and empowerment. I donate that money back. 100% of that goes back to Supriya to help fully fund retreats for these women to go to. Eventually, will be for men too. Right now, it's still for women. So everything about the company I love because we're mission based first, and it's all about giving back to the community. The products are amazing, and I always knew, so I didn't know much about makeup, but I always knew I would wear a mascara and I would put a lippy on. So I was thought, okay, I can do that. So it kind of blossomed from there.
That's great. And yeah, and I so enjoy watching your Facebook posts and on all the makeup and certainly in the last couple of years, having to being on Zoom all the time
Mhm.
actually got me pay more attention to my makeup as well, because usually I'm just
Right.
like very quick and easy, just go, but staring at myself, on the screens, like, yeah, I could use a little bit more makeup.
Mhm.
So from those two business, like, if I had to ask you, like, what lessons have you learned, or if you had to take on another person as your apprentice or as your, coachee, like, what advice or what lessons would you, share with them in terms of, everything you have gone through?
Right. I would make sure. So everything I have found that my passion within those businesses, I feel like you need to follow your passion. And maybe if you're in an environment where you're not really feeling that passion, find your place in there because there's always a place in there for you. Like I was saying, I didn't know a lot about makeup, but I found my passion within that of being able to use that as a stepping stone to help women through my self-defense classes. So if you're in a job that you're already in and that you love, then that is amazing. And then how can you take that a step further? And, how can you inspire others and encourage others to find their passion within it? And if you're in a position where you're not really loving where you are, there's always something that you can find in there. I feel like there's always something good in there that you can find that you can use as a stepping stone to maybe get you to the next place. And then I always have this philosophy of the lessons you learn may not be positive, but you can learn how you don't want to be as well. So there's always a lesson in everything and find your passion in there.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. There's always a lesson, no matter, if it's a good experience or bad experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what's next for you? Like, and how can people find you if they're, very interested and wanting to follow you and, and follow your progress and journey, where can they find you?
You can definitely find me on Facebook. I do have my website. It's Anne Rachel Carr, where you can actually find I'm a best-selling author, and I have two of my books on there. You can find links that gets you to my beauty company, and there's links to if you're interested in the ACE classes and how it works and when the next classes are. You can find me on there. Super excited about that. What else do I have in the works? My ultimate goal is just to write another book about my journey
Mm.
when I was traveling around the world. I have a journal in there. I just haven't made the step to do into that. So that's next on my list. And of course, inspiring and motivating as many people as I possibly can. And I love the opportunity of my business that it allows people to find their own
Yeah,
space in there too.
actually three times now for myself. I think, once you put your head down, and you could definitely do the next book for yourself,
Right.
traveling around the book, traveling around the world, right?
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, thank you so much for spending your time with me and sharing your journey and your wisdom with our audience.
Thank you so much, Yulin.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to the Women and Money Empowerment Show. If you ever have doubt for moments about yourself, your capability, or your worthiness, please remember to keep coming back to these stories and lean in. Draw the wisdom and strength from these incredible women and know that you also have what it takes to live a fulfilling life. Until next time, have a fabulous day.